Hello everybody, Charles Anderson, just a guy from Goodwell, Oklahoma. I've got a really great video game idea. That said, it's going to be quite a while before, I have, cool stuff to show. But today I'm going over Tonegod GUI and projecting into 3D. This is one of the ones that when I was making my video, or first time anyway, before I lost the big data crash, I'm like, ooh, I want holopanels. Holopanels, they're so cool. Gotta have them. Just because I like them, okay? Because science. Anyway, so today I'm going to go over some workflow stuff. Alright, so, hey, why would you want, well, it's holopanels. You ask yourself, why do you want 3D things? It's holopanels. I mean, I guess you could have like some buttons on doorways, or I don't know, for those VR guys, a way to have like your GUI projected into 3D space that would be interactable with, I guess. I don't know. Do they use mice and mouse pointers in VR? I don't know. All right. So let's go through the workflow. All right. So obviously, if I'm going to project into 3D, I'm going to need some 3D stuff to work with. So I'm going to start off with, hey, Blender, why not? It's good stuff. And so, I mean, this is my project. Everything's all made. And so I'm just going to go through some rough highlights. This isn't editing or anything, because they got plenty of Blender tutorials on that. But I will hit the cliff notes, the stuff that is important. You'll notice that I have two meshes here. Okay, one mesh is pretty much a duplicate of the other one, except that I upped it just a pinch upwards, just a pinch. And got rid of all the faces that I wouldn't be using. So in this case, it's just the middle of this control panel that I'm going to have these elements on for this model. I've got two models in my scene, which I'm going to use the sub-screen for, and that I'm going to count that as a good demo. So for each of these, I make sure that the mesh has a UV map declared. Boom. And then I make sure to mark my seams as shown in red. Right, and then once I marked them, there we are. Come over here too. Okay, come here. After I marked them, I made sure to adjust my faces groupings. Wherever I need to. Selects a whole island and move them around so that I can paint them. And on my material, I'm assigning it to control the color. Okay, face texture. Oh, not there. Yeah, here we go. Diffuse image, single image. I just assigned it the UV export because I exported the UV layout so that in GIMP I would have something to draw on, and then I just draw. And this is color map only. You can do like let's see. This uses default import from Blender uses lighting.j3md material definition, and so for my material, for the material, I'm only using the color map. You can also use surface normals, parallax, which is I don't know. I always see parallax as like a grayscale surface normals type thing, but and specular, though not in that order. It's probably diffuse, specular, normals, parallax. But yeah, you just look at the material definition, and it'll help you out there. And so I made sure to paint that stuff. Now for the middle bit of the control panel, when I exported it, I'm not going to be painting it. I'm going to let Tonegod take care of the whole painting it. I'm going to hand off this little, well, it's 1024 by 1024 here. This gives me a rough estimate of where my pixelation for the texture is. And so this looks pretty good. You notice I'm not using all of the area. But for what I am using, it's going to be on the left side. Here's 0, 0, and so when I place objects on here, hey, I know down here is like 300 by 862, by this little thing here. So I can get a rough guesstimate as to where I'm placing elements. So I'm literally just using this one as kind of like a zoning hint for when I place elements. So obviously, if you want your GUI elements to look bigger, go with a lower resolution, like 512 by 512, or heck, I could have just gone 1024 by 600 and something, and that would have been good. But oh well, hindsight. I got it made, got all the stuff. So UV map, material, and the texture that I use. And anyway, I have two objects for my thing. Oh, I guess I could close this, couldn't I? I sure could. So I've got two objects that I made. One would be the control panel, and it's GUI thing, and then the holo panel, because holo panel, just then I went on ahead, imported it, because why not? And in the scene composer, I went on ahead and made sure to come down here and go on ahead, generate its material. It'll say like generate JME3 material, and just choose it, hit enter, and it generates the material, so that if you want to, you can edit it, and because it uses good old lighting. And if I hit then I just set the diffuse map. Oh, okay. Diffuse, normal, specular, parallax. Okay, that's the order. Ooh, alpha map. Nice. That's good to know. All right, back to normal view. All right, so generated the thing, explicitly set the materials because why not? And all my paint job looks like, oh yeah, there's my speaker grill. Got to have a speaker grill on a, what is that? Computron 500. Yeah. Okay, so that's art assets. I got them prepped, got them ready, and got them imported. And then just for the classiness, I went ahead and made a scene. Yeah. Okay. Click. There we go. For my scene, went with a little ambient lighting, little dark gray ambient lighting, and threw in a spotlight. Still not full white because, that's what that is. Now you'll notice that the light is hitting these materials, but because we're overriding them with Tonegods, we'll be using the Tonegod shadeless shader. So, the controls are going to show up even if there was no light, which is cool in and of itself. But if you're looking for realistic buttons, you probably want to adjust the shader in Tonegod to something more your liking. Okay, so art done. I've touched upon UV maps, materials, that Tonegod uses its own shader. It's a really nice shader too, though. But it works for my style of video game. So I'm very happy with it. And so I guess we're ready for code, aren't we? Yes, we are. I went on ahead and just did some spaghetti code. So I've got my variables just mixed in with my statements just because it's easier for the video type thing. So know what the concepts are, but don't code like this. Get them into the app states or controls as advised by Norman. Okay, so here in my public variables, which are shared across my functions and stuff, methods. We've got our screen class. Hey, a new contender right here, the subscreen. New import. And then, of course, good old win count. This is pretty much like the previous one. I've altered code a bit to make it more better for a Computron 500 in a video game scene. And so we're going to start off with our initialization. Hey, we're going to grab our holo panel scene, with spotlight and ambient lighting and all that, and we're going to throw that on the root node. And of course, we're going to start off. Yes, we're going to use the default style. No hideous cow theme, thankfully, for this example. But yeah, just feel free to make up your own style anytime. And I'm going to use the UI audio and custom cursors because there's a bit different behavior with the subscreen class than with the screen class. We go ahead and add screen control to the GUI node because subscreen, due to the raycasting, screen and subscreen work together to capture the mouse input properly. All right, all right. Okay, so this statement right here. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to snag a kid out of the pool there. Panel mesh 1. This would be that middle panel, and so yeah, this is the geometry that I'm snagging out of the scene here. Of course, I could have just done it from root node. Come to think of it, since I attach it right here, but I just wasn't thinking much. So anyway, I grab the I cast new scene as a node so that I can get its child, so that I can get its geometry, because it's spatial, right? Yeah, spatial. So anyway, I snagged it as geometry and pop it in there to GUI geom. That's, yeah. Anyway, now I get my subscreen going, and screen's going to be its controller, and this is the mesh that it will be affecting. And so the UV coordinates, just remember how I positioned it, kind of over to the left towards the top-ish, even though I pretty much tried to fill in the whole thing. And then I'm going to take my subscreen and add it to my screen. Going to make a junk root node for this thing to work on. And I'm going to say, all right, so my viewing frustum is going to be 1024 by 1024. I know what the pixelation will be like. I know what the resolution will be like. And so when it renders to it, I kind of know what the size of my controls will be like. So there's the subscreen bridge set. And you know what? I'm just going to Control-Shift-Enter. All right, next up, this statement. So I want to make sure that it renders at about the same time that the transparent bucket goes, because for the most part, it's just going to be my little buttons and windows on top of the opaque set. So opaque, transparent, translucent, GUI node, or the GUI. That's rendered from first to last. And so this will be kind of towards the tail end of the rendering chain. Also, unless I do this, by default, it would have the black, because it's blend modes usually replace or I can't remember what the default blend mode is. But I know if I change it to alpha, then it won't be doing the black. It will just let it pass on through because, hey, it's going to use that alpha channel. And so if the alpha is semi-transparent or completely transparent, it'll just let it pass on through and bounce off of the opaque. All right. Yep, and this kind of shows that whole alpha channel thing on a window element, and so 60% strength, good. And I add that to the subscreen. Now, remember, subscreen is going to be our little computer panel on top of on the computer, and I'm going to throw down a button that makes our windows. And I've actually altered the code of create new window just a touch. I'll just go over that later, though. And so I toss that on to the control panel. Then I work on my hologram, my holo panel. So I snag the geometry for that out of the new scene, and I assign it to the subscreen here. and of course the screen. And then I add that subscreen to good old screen. Give it a root junk node. Pretty much the same. Pretty much the same. Now here, face cull mode. So like it saves time on rendering cycles if you don't render the back plane, but because this is a hollow panel hovering in midair, you know, we got to have both sides to it. So I go ahead and set face culling off, and then I turn right around and I turn on cull hint always, which in effect makes this invisible because I have a button to toggle it, you know, on and off. So it's going to be start off invisible, but then it will show you. Now, caveat, it's invisible, but because the screen class and these subscreens are controls, it's still there as far as they're concerned. It's just invisible. So if I were to truly make this 100% foolproof, I would also, when I turn on, you know, toggle it from rendering and not rendering, I would also toggle the control grabbing the mouse input or not. So that is a flaw in this program, but I'm telling you about it so that I can show you that behavior. Okay, and just because I have a translucent window on the control panel out of place, I'm going to have a completely opaque window out of place on my holo screen, you know, for grins and giggles. And you know, I throw the toggle button down onto the control panel of the computer. So then of course make it a little bit snappier to zip around the scene on the fly cam, and visible and drag to rotate. Pretty much good to go there. On the create new window, I've changed it with a little if check on that, you know, cull hint. Is it invisible? Is it not invisible? Well, if it is invisible, then we're going to throw new windows onto the control panel of the computer. And if it's not invisible, we'll throw windows onto the little holo screen. And, you know, they're going to be translucent like proper holo panels. And then, of course, the toggle holo panel, hey, depending on its cull hint, it either becomes invisible or not invisible. Oh, hey, there it is. I guess dynamic was the default cull hint. Yeah. All right. And that would have taken me forever to type. Just letting you know. Okay, so let's play this puppy and show you some behaviors. There we go. 64480, that's good. Welcome to the Computron 500. See, like right over here, because it says Computron 500. Yes. And yes, there's our speaker grill. That's where all these cool sounds are coming from. Yeah. Okay, so here's our translucent window. Now you'll notice I'm coming over here to the side because I already know if I try to grab it over here, it's not going to happen. And that's just because that doesn't really show behavior. Because remember I said about that control thing? I've actually got the invisible holo panel just positioned right there. But anyway, oh, look at that! Isn't that cool? Completely out of place here. Let's get a proper window going. Woo! Oh yeah! Now there's some proper windows, full strength, caffeinated windows. Oh wait, that would show holo panel. There we go. So yeah, as you can see, when you come off to the edges, it just goes off the edges. And you can see that the buttons. Oh, and also because this is its own shader, it does not react to reflection. If that spotlight weren't there, you would still be able to see them just as well as you're able to see them right now, which is great for my type of video games where buttons are easy to see and easy to press. So let's bring up our holo panel now. Oh, look at that, floating in midair. There's that opaque out of place window. And you can see how it kind of wiggles. And that's because, yeah, I really should have projected my UV mesh before deforming it, because, yeah, that's going to lead to awesomeness right there. And as you can see, it is leading to awesomeness. But before I go too much further, let's get some proper translucent hollow panels. Oh yeah. And you know what? I'm just gonna... Right. And so now here I'm at this angle, and so that you can clearly see the mouse grabbing control. And even when it's invisible, because I haven't disabled the control. So keep that in mind, people. If you're going to do something like this, make sure to disable the controls. Do not be like me. So yeah, and of course, because I've also... Look, it's all backwards. New Widna. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, controls still work like normal, but still. I wouldn't advise chatting from the other side of a holopane. That would just be awkward. Okay. So there we go. Oh, and you'll notice how, hey, everything disappeared here. Well, that's because this a few vertices from here, because how I have my camera there in front. Of course, if I rotate like this and come up here, now all of these vertices are in front. It has to do with the Z ordering. So also keep that in mind for these type of situations, if you should ever do that. So there you go, 3D holopanels. You've got items that work in 3D, and you'll notice that even though I'm able to resize this, it does not change the cursor on the subscreen class as it does with just normal GUI elements on the GUI plane. And that's probably because you come over here, and if you were to come over here and then have the one cursor, up down cursor, in other words, the wrong cursor showing for the function that you're doing. Woo. Okay, well, enough of that. So here you go, Tonegod in 3D workflow, example, limitations, pros, cons, and a little bit of code that will help you out, even on some of your normal rendering stuff, things to consider. All right, I am on Patreon. Please donate. I do enjoy Cokes, so go for $1 if you like. And I believe there was a request for tables and chat windows in the next video, so I'll see what I can cobble together for that. So, all right, hopefully this has been helpful to you, and y'all have fun. And I'm just going to end the video now, but I'm going to be playing with this holo panel for just a little bit longer. All right, peace out.